If you want to come forward and talk to us, this is your chance.
We sense you. We can feel you. Who are you?
There's more here in the town than we're aware of, isn't there?
When they were building this road, they dug up 6 ancestral remains.
I felt the pressure change as soon as we got up the stairs.
We're actually standing on the foundation of an opium factory.
In a residential day school back in the mid-1800s, you can feel things. You just know that you're being watched.
Whoa.
Where do you want us to go? Hell. You don't have power. Please stop. Please stop. Slam!
We don't want you to be afraid of us. You are loved, and you are love itself. Bell.
Bell?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Something just touched the back of my collar.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll just introduce myself. I'm Wally Start. I'm the executive producer of The Other Side. I co-produce with my son, Tyler Start. The show originally, well, we've always had an Indigenous producer co-producing with us. Jennifer Podemsky and I, and Bob Crow, my business partner at the time, fellow producer, we worked with Jennifer on the original show concept, which was her, when she phoned me up, she wanted to do a paranormal show with an Indigenous perspective. And so the show's evolved since that time and into what it is now. So again, as an executive producer, and whatever, I'm sure people are very familiar with what an executive producer does. But executive producer. Yeah, I didn't have a background in paranormal. I looked at it as a really interesting subject. I felt that it was the time was right. It was a tremendous niche in an area that was being underserved. And what I loved about it, like we described the show as a paranormal show with an Indigenous heartbeat. So the whole thing was to take a look at the paranormal from an Indigenous perspective. And that's so unique because in the Indigenous belief system, spirits are all around us. They're not to be feared, they're to be respected. And everything that we do, and we always have an Indigenous elder involved in the show and guiding our spiritual journey and protecting us. And so there's always a tobacco offering at the beginning, and there's always this connection with spirit. And I thought when we got into this and started developing the show, I thought, wow, this is really different than what's out there. And again, it's a very respectful approach that we take to the spirit world. Absolutely, absolutely. Right from the get-go, it was so important to have an elder tied to the show to consult with and to be involved in the shoot throughout, just as to make sure that we stay true to the traditions and the beliefs. And I think, again, that's what makes the show so unique. And our plan always from the beginning is to, when we come into a space, is to help it return to a peaceful state. And where possible, where there's a need or an interest, help the spirits to move on. And again, through the guidance of an elder. And also, whenever we go where we can, we always invite an elder from the area to participate with us in the ceremony, to participate with us in the show. And again, that's just in respect to, the Indigenous spirituality and Indigenous belief systems. And that's what makes the show so rich. Just in the paranormal, rich in story, but also rich in culture. And obviously, I'm a big fan. Again, the concept of Jennifer Podemsky and her interest in looking at paranormal from Indigenous perspective. But then, how did the show? And the show kind of it's funny because Jeff Richards, we had worked with Jeffrey. I'd seen or knew him from when we did a show on him for SaskTel Max, our community programming that we produce for SaskTel. I remember vividly this clip that we did with him. And so we were considering who to cast for the show. And I suggested to Jennifer, I said, we should take a look at Jeff Richards. And I showed her the clip. And then we did an interview with him and chatted with him. And we just felt, and because of his unique story, we felt, hey, he's perfect. He's would be fantastic for the show. And then, of course, Bill Connolly was next, and Priscilla Wolf was the next team member. And then it was a matter of finding an elder that could work with the show. And actually, I brought Tom Charles because I'd been, when we were producing, when Bob Crow and I were producing Rabbit Fall. And I remember when we were, which is our crime drama with a supernatural twist. When we were producing that show, I actually had scouted L'Orange as a potential location for filming. And when I contacted the L'Orange Indian Band, they actually said, well, we'll get Tom Charles to meet with you. And Tom gave me a wonderful tour. I got to know him really well. And then so it was a natural that I also said, hey, he'd be really good he understands television, he understands filming, but he's tremendously connected to his culture and so he was put forward his name and we all considered it, and that's kind of the genesis for the show. It's funny how, it was a challenge, when you're first season is always gonna be the hardest. And you said, well, how'd you get the stories? That was the hardest part. Actually, and we had to learn everything. Like, how do we go about finding stories, finding locations? We really wanted to find personal stories, Indigenous people, experiences in their homes, and to do an investigation. And we were somewhat successful with that. Again, breaking new ground because these were Indigenous stories, right? And I think that was the hardest part. And I remember we started shooting and we only had about 8 stories locked. So we were still working hard to try and get the rest, 5 more stories. And we were able to do that. But man, it was an interesting time. Yeah, and I think, once the show, because those first 3 seasons are the hardest because you're learning everything. You're learning, how to do research. And we were able to work with, we started connecting with people that there's, I forget the association that we tied in with, and we found a gal there that helped us quite a bit. And then we just basically people started to see the show, and so it was not as big a challenge for them to understand what we're trying to do, and so they could see how we were approaching things, and overcome some of the fear. I think once they saw our approach, especially to the Indigenous guests on the show, they could see that their culture, their respect for culture, and our approach was different than others. And that was really helpful. And then just patience and respect for them, and then just having a clear understanding of what works, what we needed to have. And we kind of we've been able to throughout. We've been able to have some of those personal stories, where they've had the experience in their own home. And in fact, season 9 has a really cool episode just on that. We've kind of had this balancing between historical sites, that have actually advertised, or they have a paranormal history and are very comfortable with us doing investigation there. Again, we're working on season 10 already, so we're at square one again with the stories. Season 10? Well, I can't. I can say we've got some really big changes, some really exciting new changes in season 10. So it's going to be fun. Yeah. Well, in season 9, Aaron, who was expecting, wasn't able to be on season 9. So we, it was funny, like when, I'll jump around, like when Tom was ill, I said to Tom, look, the best person to help me find another elder is you. And I want you to recommend somebody. And he's the one that found us an elder. Then likewise, when Alan wasn't able to continue on, I said, well, I'm going to tell you the same thing I told Tom. I said, help me find an elder. I think each time the show has grown as a result of it, because there's somebody different. Like I look at Shanley, and what I love about her is this real calm demeanor. When she answers questions, are very thoughtful, and she has a gift. It kind of really works with the show because this calm demeanor, spirits are responding to her, and we're getting really fantastic communication. Again, I just keep seeing the show growing, and so like you're correct. And I was looking back, in the first seasons, again, it was Jeff Richards, Bill Connolly, Priscilla Wolfe. That was the team, and Tom Charles, right? And then, as happens in life, for one reason or the other, people are not able to, because it's a pretty big commitment to the show. And so I know Bill couldn't continue on with the show. And we felt that actually in a half hour, when you've got an elder, you've got the tech person, and you've got Jeff and Priscilla, it felt really busy, really hard to give the attention to all those characters in a half hour, plus to have the guests involved. So the best thing we decided to do was, we don't need a tech guy. Let's keep the tech. Let's not make it about the tech. Let's make it about the communication with the spirit. So when we made that decision, and so then it just was Priscilla, Jeff, and then Tom Charles, right? That was the right number. And then, Priscilla wasn't able to continue with us, and Erin Goodpipe joined us. And Erin had she was a journalist. She really tremendous interviewing skills. There wasn't an angle that she looked bad in. Very beautiful gal. And her and Jeff really hit it off, and there was great chemistry there. And then, you know, with her having to step away, and then Shanley joining us for season 9. And Shanley, I thought, was the best combination because she was opposite of Jeff. That was such a powerful. She was thoughtful, and Jeff was, you know, energetic, and I think they had a really good balance. I think they have a really good balance. I mean, our audience will be the judge of that. And then Lee Crowchild, who, you know, man, like I think it's 3 generations of Crowchild. In fact, he's with the Tucina near Calgary. Chief Crowchild Road in Calgary is named after his family. So Lee and I have become good friends, and he brings a depth of knowledge to the show, and the 3 of them work incredibly well together. I hope the viewer sees that too. Yeah, you know, it's having that instinct to walk into a room and sense that there's spirit there. And then, again, one of the biggest evolution, I think, was us realizing that our guests were part of this journey, and actually they were the journey, because we gave them the K2 meter. The spirit started to respond to that, and we could see it on their faces, you know, because sometimes, I'm sure with Jeff, he'd seen quite a bit, right? So, but the guests were seeing it for the first time, so we'd get these incredible reactions and again, a big part of our show is this communication with spirit. We are able to ask them questions. And yes, you know, we have to edit it because we're spelling out the alphabet, and they're touching the K2 meter on letter, so to spell a word. But it's quite revelationary when we get these words. It's very cool. Well, I've never timed it out, but I mean, I sit through all the rough cuts. So our way, we have to jump to the letters, right? So, but we put a little dissolve in there so you can see that we've done that, because it's important that the most important thing that we have done is not add any extra sound effects, to stay true to exactly what we're seeing there. So, and that is just baked into the show. It's authenticity. So yeah, I don't know how long, like, because if somebody's spelling their name, right, and it's a long one, we got to go through every letter. But sometimes Jeff will just know the name. Like, you know, you start off with SU, and we can guess Susan, and it may be wrong, but it gets us to that, right? But we've not only asked for names, but we've asked for places. We've asked for answers to questions. One of my favorite episodes was in Manitoba. Now I'm going to it was outside. It was in a farmer's field, and I'm trying to remember the penitentiary. But during the history of that penitentiary, there was a death sentence where they hung prisoners, and then the bodies were buried outside of the walls of the jail, and the Red River was eating away at the bank, and they were concerned that the coffins were going to be revealed. So they actually took them all, bought a plot of land, farmer's field, and we did an investigation there. And I remember we made connection, of course, on this one gravesite. The inmate, the story was horrible. We did a little background, and he was one of the 3 that murdered this older lady for $20, and they were anyways. And then, but it was funny when we saw a picture of them, the three of them together, two were just, you could see the evil in their eyes, right? And yet he didn't have that look. And of course, he claimed his innocence. And we asked him if he had a message for us. And it was such a wonderful message. He spelled out, love more. It was, we ended on that. It was powerful. So we don't just get people's names, but we try to find either a message if there's something they want to say. And we've had some quite revelations by doing that. Say that that energy right from the beginning, first episode, Western Development Museum, that's where it all started. And it's gone by, if people have watched the show, they'll know the story. It's gone by a number of different names, from Lucifer to Lucky to Lucy to Jack. It's there, and we have to put up with it. And actually very disruptive, because if there's other spirits there, it makes its presence known. And I know in the Prince House, I've said it, in Calgary, it was terrorizing the spirits in that home, and it was there because of us, right? I wouldn't say it contributes energy. In fact, it's peaceful. It's like a security blanket for us when we enter a place, and when we leave, we know that we're leaving it behind, whatever energy was there behind. So it has that nice calming influence and a sense of security too. But certainly it can open up doors for us. We have to be careful, because if you're using sage, you're actually driving spirits away, right? So we have to be careful what we're doing. And that's why Tom was fantastic there, and actually in helping our audience understand those traditions and being a gateway for knowledge. And I think that's one of the skills of Lee, is what he brings that way, both for me personally, but also for the viewer. Perhaps I'd hate to make a value judgment on that. I think for people viewing the show, I think have a tremendous perspective now on the spirit world, and an understanding, and maybe a different approach to it. I think if Indigenous people are following their culture, they've already got a healthy respect for spirits, right? Just in appreciating them, the people have gone before, and holding that sacred. And some may be further along their journey than others. We're definitely going to travel the show. We've already had that conversation, not for season 10, but future seasons. We're going to explore. We've looked at doing some stories in the U.S., perhaps taking the show over to New Zealand or Australia. We're going to connect with the Indigenous people and elders in those countries, and then working with them, we're going to explore the show. And I'd love to be able to travel the show. If I had my way, I'd love to turn it into a 1 hour. And I think if we explore it, take the show to another country, for us to really make place part of the story, and to give more of a sense of where we are, I think we need to have a longer format to do that. Hopefully APTN feels that way too. So I'm planting a seed here. Yeah, so that's my big dream, and is to visit some of the other countries, to learn about cultures there, Indigenous cultures, and to experience that through our show, and then to hopefully move it into a longer format. Well, hey, thank you for doing this, and thank you for taking the time to talk to me and to explore the wonderful stories of our show. So yes. Fantastic, thank you. It'll be, and they will post all of the episodes on Lumi once they've finished airing. Then it'll all be there for people to explore.
If you want to come forward and talk to us, this is your chance.
We sense you. We can feel you. Who are you?
There's more here in the town than we're aware of, isn't there?
When they were building this road, they dug up 6 ancestral remains.
I felt the pressure change as soon as we got up the stairs.
We're actually standing on the foundation of an opium factory.
In a residential day school back in the mid-1800s, you can feel things. You just know that you're being watched.
Whoa.
Where do you want us to go? Hell. You don't have power. Please stop. Please stop. Slam!
I don't want you to be afraid of us. You are loved, and you are love itself. Bell.
Bell?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
Something just touched the back of my collar.